Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the Tennessee State University football program 1998. And we're fortunate to have with us this morning to talk about the Tennessee State University football program 1998, of course, Lawrence Cole. And of course, Coach Cole, let me welcome you to the show this morning. You know, Coach, I think that we've talked about the Tennessee State University football program on a number of occasions on this show. As a matter of fact, we've had you here on two different occasions to talk about that program. But let's assume that very few people are familiar with some of the things that we've talked about on this program, and to start at the very, very beginning by having you to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in your career that eventually led you to the head coach for the Tennessee State University football program. After that, we'll talk about some other aspects of the 1998 season, last season and the upcoming season.
Right, well, I'm officially from Dayton, Ohio, born in Springfield. Parents named Timothy and Ruby Cole. I'm from a family of 9 boys. I'm the middle child, and went to school at the University of Nebraska, where I graduated from there and played a little bit of professional football with the New York Jets and adventure with the Denver Broncos, and then I went into the World Football League. And then I went back to University of Nebraska and just started coaching. You know, I always, been around kids all my life, and I just thought it was very important that I give something, back. So I just got into coaching, and once I left Nebraska, I went to New Mexico State, and then I coached at Ball State, and coached in the Big Ten at Wisconsin and the Big 8 with Kansas State. And been around a couple of schools, and went to Morgan State, which is a historic black college. And my last stop was Cincinnati. And then I was able to come in here and convince the committee here at Tennessee State that I was the right candidate for the head job at Tennessee State. So somehow won the guys over. But since then, I've been here 2 football seasons, and we started off kind of slow, but I think things have picked up for us quite a bit. And I always just say the plus thing, since I've been at Tennessee State right now, I'm just happy because I reached a goal, which, since I've been there, we're going to graduate 15 football players so far. I mean, that's tremendous, where you had a very, very low rate. But right now we graduated 15 guys, and next we're going to have quite a few guys graduated. We have brought the team from the bottom in the polls of the OVC and offense to #1 in total offense and passing efficiency. So we've done a great job on that aspect. And then we did some real nice goals since I've been here. We won on the road, which we haven't never won on the road here in quite a long time, and beat UT Martin. So we kind of beat the teams that we should beat. Now we're at that standpoint where it's time for us to go over the top.
So you're about ready to move the team up to another level. And let's do that. Let's talk about the last team last year, because I think that there were many high hopes and many aspirations for that team last year. And I think you've already indicated that looking at your record book and your statistical information, you can demonstrate that you've moved them in terms of offense and et cetera. But let's talk about that last year team. How do you compare that team to the team that you had the first year? And then let's look at that team and compare them to what we have coming up here.
Well, my first year when you come in, you go through a transition. You have to mold the players to where you want them to be. And so when you go through your first year, it's just like a transition. We probably could have won more games last year, but then again, you always have your try and error. So we went through that. But this year, we felt that we were going to have a pretty good team. We had everybody back, basically, and had a large group on the defensive side of football. But unfortunately, we ended up having a lot of injuries at the beginning of the season, and we ended up having 15 guys with major surgery. So our first football game against Florida A&M really hurt us. We went down there and played in the heat, and then we came out of the game with all the injuries, and it gave us a big major setback. And then what we had to do was end up starting 9 freshmen, and then when you start 9 freshmen, that make it pretty difficult. But we fought through the season. We really didn't get beat bad by anybody, but Eastern Kentucky was the only team that really beat us. We lost we went in every football game winning. We was averaging scoring 28 points a game, but we just really couldn't stop anybody, and that was just because of the inexperienced young kids we had on the defensive side of football. So those young kids have had, some playing experience here. So hopefully this year we're counting on that the defense can be a much, much better unit. And then on the offense, if we can keep it going, we have a high-powered offense. We have a great quarterback, Leon Murray, a transfer from Pitt, and then we had a great wide receiver in Tyrone Butterfield from Michigan, and then we have Davenport at running back. So we feel like we're pretty good on the offensive side of football. On the defensive side of football, we might be kind of young, but we have some experienced guys back, and that's going to be the plus for us.
And of course I know, Coach, that there's a difference between having experienced players and having players who don't have any experience.
Right.
That is, persons who might be fresh out of high school, so to speak. But now, is there that much difference between a young man who has had an entire year of collegiate experience and one who has been coached leading toward a collegiate athletic career? Is there that much difference between experience and what one will bring and what one will have as a sophomore?
Yeah, I just think, the one with the more experience, he's been in there, he's been in the weight room. I think when you look at football games, a lot of it comes from, the strength level, how strong the individual is. When you bring a high school kid who's probably 18 or 17-year-old, still has growing potential, then you have a young man that's already in the program that's been through a real good weight program, and, he don't put on a couple of pounds, his neck is enlarged, arms and all that. So. And then plus he's been coached well, fundamental, those are the biggest keys. So when you bring a high school kid in, he hasn't been through all those types of things. So I would always take an experienced guy over a young kid that's coming in. And so I think that's where we're at now. Since we added a strength coach to the program at Tennessee State, that has made a tremendous difference. If you watched our spring football game this year, I'll tell you what, our guys really got after each other, and we didn't have any major injuries this spring. And when I first came in this spring, we had quite a few, and they have had quite a few injuries at Tennessee State. But this year, we didn't have the injuries that we have had in the past. So I think we're on the right track now.
And you attributed that to your new emphasis upon strength.
Right.
Strength. And it really has that much, the weight room really plays that much of a role in collegiate athletics, not only here but everywhere else you go.
Right. When you see Tennessee State's football team this year, you won't see any fat guys on our football team. No offense to fat people or anything like that, but athletic-wise, you'll see our guys more of an athletic cut, fit look, linemen not with their bellies hanging over or this, and their jersey won't fit in and all that. We got lean athletes out there right now, and that's why I feel that we're going to be a much better football team this year.
And I think many people are looking at you being a much better football team. Coach, when you look at that team, what are some of the things that, and we've got a commercial break that's coming up soon, but hopefully we can start now. And this will give you an opportunity not only to talk about it now, but the entire next segment. Let's talk about that team. I mean, who are some of the players that you believe that the fans ought to be aware of this upcoming season? You've got a fairly good perspective in terms of what you're doing now.
Yeah, I'm always a big guy that, it takes 11 guys to have a football team, but like you say, some guys are special. And if we went on the defensive side of football, and that's where we really need to tighten up on, with moving Jarek Hillary to free safety, which is an experienced guy who's a very athletic guy, has made our secondary great. You look at Hinton. Daryl Hinton is a 4-year starter, so he's another guy you keep your eye on. And Eric Joyce in the secondary is another freshman. If you go to the linebacker position, you're looking at Amon Williams and Quincy Faulkner, 2 experienced guys. And then you go in the defensive line, you're talking about Eric McCray, which is a more experienced guy. And if you go on the offensive side of football, it's always key that you have a great quarterback. And Leon Murray is a great quarterback. And you look at our running back, we got about 3 of them. DeJuan Marshall, who's a transfer from Cincinnati, and Davenport. And then you go to wide out again. Tyrone Butterfield is a big guy, and Corey Sullivan. And then you go on the offensive line, and you're looking at Benny and Deshaun Thompson is, a key factor for us.
And so these are some of the men that you plan on making a great contribution to the team. And of course, we're going to talk about that when we come back during the second segment, and we'll be back with you following this second segment.
Hi, I'm Susan Olson, Cindy from the Brady Bunch. For 25 years, severe migraine attacks interfered with my career, my marriage, even my ability to care for my son. But I took charge and got a treatment program that works for me. Now I'm teaming up with the National Women's Health Resource Center to urge you to do the same. If you're the one in every 6 women who suffers from migraine, Call 1-800-627-5021 and take charge.
Sooner or later, you realize you're ready. Ready to believe that you can achieve anything. That it might not always be easy or quick. But the things worth doing rarely are. You know what you want. Get there with education, training, and experience. Aim high, Air Force.
It's a thin line between newborn and stillborn, full term and premature, between healthy and sick. If you're pregnant or think you are, getting prenatal care early is the most important step you can take. Don't put your baby's health on the line. Take care of yourself so you can take care of your baby. Find out now about getting prenatal care. Call 1-800-311-2229.
WZTV-TV would like to get to know you better. If you have any programming suggestions or community service events that you want on our community calendar, contact Kelly Armstead at WZTV-TV, 631 Mainstream Drive, Nashville, Tennessee, 37228. Or feel free to call at 615-259-5617.
Thank you and welcome back. We're talking to the head coach for the Tennessee State University Tigers, Coach Lawrence Cole. And of course, Coach Cole, before we had our first commercial break, we were talking about some of the things dealing with the present football team. And of course, what we'd like to do is to continue that conversation and give you an opportunity to perhaps say something about some of the players or some of the situations or whatever that has to do with the team.
Yeah, you know, we talked about a little about a couple of individuals, but, you know, as a team this year, and there's a lot of guys been on that team, you know, 4 years, and they've been through a lot and been through some losing seasons, but I tell you what, the morale is there. I think what this group probably have different than any of the teams, the two teams that I've been here, is that the senior leadership. The guys did a lot of things on the off season to try to bring the team together, and you know, if you don't have senior leadership on your football team, then you don't have anything. You know, I could suggest different subjects or do this, but I think the seniors have took a hold of this team and really took this team to another level, and that's going to be very important because our seniors right now, they did a lot of things in the community this year. They went to the hospitals and visited young kids in the hospital. They had a football week where they gave a picnic for the university where all the students came out and kind of intermingled with the students. They gave a swim party. They have did a lot of things in the community this year at the Boys Club. So, you know, when you see some young men doing that and forth and effort, then you know that the team is really coming together because they want everybody to be a part of it. You know, we still have the Tiger Rap program. We had about 11 guys went down and read to students in the elementary schools. So, you know, I just look at them and I say, this is a sign of maturity in this football team, and I think we're definitely going in the right direction. Also, this team really sit down and they're talking with the young guys, you know, saying, hey, just follow our lead. Our senior guys are stepping up forward, telling the guys, hey, you got to go to class, and in order for us to win, we got to have everybody. We got to have everybody eligible. Yeah, and so I think that shows great leadership, and I think that's another reason why I think this is going to be a real good year for us. And I think the attitude has changed with this team here. You know, when you've been through a program and you've seen a lot of different winning and losing and why you lost, I think that's very important. And, you know, they have some goals. You know, they sit down, and I sit down with the seniors, and we talked about our goals this year. We talked about one goal. We haven't won the first football game at Tennessee State in 10 years. And that's one of their goals here to win the first football. Win the opener. The other one is beat Middle Tennessee over at third place. That's very important for us to beat Middle Tennessee in 10 years because Middle Tennessee is going Division I next year. So in order for us to beat a team that's going Division I, we'll be very proud of that. We haven't won the OVC. That's since we've been in the league since 1986. So that's one of the goals. So they have their perspective of what they want out of the season coming up. So that's why I'm real happy for them. And I think, when those guys are showing that type of leadership, I think we're going the right direction.
You know, and I think one of the things that is probably on everybody's mind is what the Tennessee Oilers. And I think that each time that we've had you with us, we've sort of broached the subject of the Oilers. I think the first time we were talking about whether or not they would have we would actually have a team.
Right.
Then we were talking about whether or not there would be a stadium. And I think that all of those things have, in a real sense, come to pass. And the Oilers have indicated their confidence, I think, in Tennessee State University and the program by going back to Tennessee State University for a second year. Let's talk about that. What does that mean to your football team and to you and the whole thing dealing with the Tennessee Oilers?
Well, what it ends up doing is, really it gives us a lot of recognition at Tennessee State, not just as a football team, but as a university, and, try to open the school up to the public so they can really see how Tennessee State really is from different perspective of Nashville and the other surrounding areas. But as far as our football program, our coaching staff this year, the relationship probably opened up better this year than it did last year because everything was new. But, as a staff, we're going to get a chance to, really work closely with them this year. I'll work with Fisher, around, on about administration situations. And then the assistant coaches, they're going to let our assistant coaches go with their guys in meetings and go out on the field with them and work with them in different situations. So it's really going to help us. And then also our training people to see what kind of techniques they have. So it's really going to help us out a lot. And also, our guys work with the Oilers during the summer as security guards. So really, this year is really helping us out more. Now we're getting a feel of where they're coming from, and they're getting a feel of where we're at now.
And so the whole thing can only be a very, very positive thing for the Tennessee State University football program, as well as for the university itself.
Right.
Now, will it be this year, or as soon as the stadium is built, that you will have your game in that stadium? How does that sound to some of your players now? I mean, what are they saying about that? Or do they see that as a great prospect, or what?
Well, I think they do. How many chances you get to play in an NFL stadium, and it's, the rest of your life you can say, hey, I played in an NFL stadium, even if you don't make it to the professional ranks. But, we really used that for recruiting this year. We was bringing in some big-time recruits this year. We kind of like showed them the facility that they'll be playing in. You always feel that if you practice where a pro team practices at, that the coaches probably be keeping an eye on, individuals on our team. And we will have some guys who probably end up getting drafted next year, so they get a first-hand look at our guys right away. So that really, put something in our basket.
And you said you use that primarily as one of your recruitment tools. Did you have any success in terms of bringing any of those players who might have been leaning the other way by using that as a method? Or?
Oh, yeah, we have a couple of great prospects that we reeled in this year, and you'll see it on the special side of the ball, special team. We failed that last year. We lost a couple of games just by field goals, and we went all the way to Walla Walla, Washington, to bring in a kicker, which the young man has never missed a field goal since he's been the starting field goal kicker in high school. So that's a big plus. And then also, we wasn't very good at kicking the ball off. I mean, we just gave the guys the ball at the 30, but now we have a kicker, who can kick the ball all the way down the field. So, everything is adding up for us.
Very good. Of course, Coach, we have about 59 seconds before our second commercial break, and after that we'll have 6 minutes to talk about some of the things. Let's begin by talking about fan support, because that's what we want to talk about between now and the end of the show. Let's have you to start, and of course I'll interrupt you, but let's start talking about fan support.
Well, last year, the fans were there, and I really, take my hat off and really thank the fans, because when, everybody was excited, and then we lost the 15 guys, and guys had surgery. It was real nice to get fan letters and mails and cards to those athletes that ended up getting injured, and that was a big, big plus. And, and it really, helped those guys came back off those surgeries, and those guys been through rehabs and doing real well. But this year is going to be vitally important because we have 8 road games and we only have 3 home games. So, you're going to need that on-the-road support.
And we're going to talk about that as soon as we come back during this final commercial break. We'll be back with you following this break.
Dolly?
Family, isn't it about time? From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Be cool about fire safety.
Did you know that many fires started because kids played with matches and lighters?
It's really sad. The fire started with matches and lighters for thousands of people last year.
Like parents, then grandparents,
and brothers and sisters. If you ever see matches or lighters, don't touch them.
Somebody left out matches and a lighter.
Remember,
Wow.
keep your eyes open, and if you see these, tell a grown-up right away. But never touch them, and you'll be a real superhero.
Like a deputy fire marshal?
Exactly.
Don't touch matches or lighters. Tell a grown-up instead. Be cool about fire safety.
Thank you and welcome back. Since we left the last time, we do have a new addition to the show. The topic is the Tennessee State University football program, and of course not only do we have the head coach for the Tennessee State University football program, but we also have the son of the head coach for the Tennessee State University football program, and of course Coach Cole, this is your new addition that was born, I think, during the last game of last year's season.
Right.
And why don't you introduce him to the audience this morning before we start talking about fan support?
Yeah, he was born our last football game against SEMO, and he was born. Then I had to rush to the game, and what was good about it, we had him, and then we ended up winning the game that Saturday. His name is Lawrence Timothy Clay Cole. He's named after me, my father, my wife's father, so he got a couple of names.
And of course, if you can hold him and restrain him there, he seems as if he's ready to play football already. But Coach, you know, the upcoming season, I think we've already mentioned something about fan support. But the upcoming season, I think that there's going to be a lot of sort of reorganization on the campus of Tennessee State University.
Right.
And some of the folks that we've talked to would like to know something about parking. What would you suggest about parking and some of the other logistical kinds of things that they ought to be able to do between now and the next 4 or 5 minutes?
Well, I would just say don't come to the game late.
Okay.
You know, you just got to get there early, but what you're probably going to have to do is just end up probably parking on the street, and I think they're probably just going to work out a situation where people probably parking, they might have just like buses or something that bus them in. I think we're still in a situation where we're trying to work out that parking situation because the campus is getting renovated.
You know, you've talked about some of the activities that your young players have been involved in dealing with some of the fans. Why don't you give us some more specific information in reference to these kinds of programs that you have that will allow your young people to get out into the community and meet the community?
Yeah, what we try to do is try to utilize our athletes because if you look at today, a lot of young kids have a lot of problems. And I just feel like some of our athletes that's made it successful, some of our athletes, you know, have came from, you know, been in they so-called low income or where you want to talk about ghetto and made it out. So what we try to do is send our guys back into those areas and talk to those young kids, you know, because we was at the Boys Club and we met quite a few kids at the Boys Club. And then we just sit down there and play games with them, talk with them, read books with them, tutor them in math, and our guys doing that situation. We had what we called a Tiger Rap program, and we went around to probably about 15 elementary schools and just kind of like went into the schools and just kind of talk and sometimes not always talk, sometimes listen to other kids' problems and stuff too. So, you know, to just let everybody know that we're human too.
And so you're having quite not only a lot of interaction with various communities, but it also not only helps you, but it also helps your entire program and it helps the community as well.
Yeah, because, you know, it develops my, you know, the athletes that I have too, and let them know how fortunate that they are, you know, to come to school and how important it is to get an education because you know that you can end up in that same situation. So you have an opportunity, and that's why I sometimes try to always put them back out in those areas and let them know, hey, how lucky you are. So, you know, that go to class, get an education, and how important education is.
Well, you know, Coach, some of the last things that we'd like to talk about is scholarships and some of the other opportunities that these young people have who are involved in your program. Do you feel that you have enough scholarships this year? And what are some of the limitations in terms of your ability to have more scholarships?
Well, we are a 1AA program, and you get to have 63 scholarships, which we have the full maximum scholarships, so we don't have a problem with that. But you know, it's always a budget situation that you always run into, you know, and I think that's why it's very important that, you know, as a university that, you know, we pick up on that side and get more of a big, strong booster club or more support, more ticket buyers. I think
ticket,
right. You know, if every Tennessee State graduate or alumni buy a season ticket, then, you know, our program would be set. We would be